Chosen one, listen to me carefully. What I am about to share is not for everyone. This message is urgent, sacred, and intentional. If you are not walking the divine path of God, if your heart is not surrendered, then this message will not resonate with you, and you may leave now. But if you are truly chosen, if you have been carrying a deep spiritual weight, if you have felt God drawing you closer in ways you cannot fully explain, then this message has reached you at the exact right moment. Not early, not late, perfectly timed. No one ever comes this close to God by accident, and no one stands this near His presence without a reason. You are closer than you realize, and heaven is paying attention to you right now. What I am about to reveal will shift how you see your struggles, your silence, and your season. Stay with me until the end, because what you hear today will bring clarity, peace, and confirmation to your spirit. Before we continue, chosen ones, give a like to this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon so you don't miss what God is releasing next, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this truth. And comment 777 in the comments to declare that you are fully aligned with God's divine will and purpose. Now take a breath and let me speak to your spirit.
Why you were allowed this close to God. Chosen one, let me speak to you plainly now. Not everyone is allowed this close to God. And I want you to understand this deeply, without pride and without fear. This closeness is not a reward for perfection. It is not because you are better than others. It is because God trusts you. God does not draw people near at random. He is intentional. He is precise. When He allows someone into deeper communion, it is because that soul has been shaped through pressure, humility, and endurance. You did not arrive here by chance. You were escorted here through trials that almost broke you, seasons that confused you, and moments where you had nothing left but faith. Many people want blessings. Few want transformation. Many want God's hand. Few can handle His presence. You, however, have been learning obedience in silence. You stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. You prayed when answers were delayed. You trusted when clarity was absent. That is why you are here. Closeness to God is not about emotion. It is about alignment. God draws near to those whose hearts remain soft under pressure. He draws near to those who do not harden themselves when life becomes unfair. He draws near to those who choose righteousness even when no one is watching. You have been doing that quietly, often without recognition. Heaven noticed. You may not feel holy. You may still wrestle with doubts, questions, and inner battles. But understand this. God is not intimidated by your humanity. He is drawn to your sincerity. What separates the chosen from the crowd is not flawlessness, but willingness. Willingness to be corrected. Willingness to be refined. Willingness to surrender control. Think about how God works. Throughout Scripture, He always separated those He intended to use deeply. Moses was pulled away into the wilderness. David was hidden among sheep. Elijah was isolated by the brook. Even Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray. Proximity to God often requires distance from distraction. If you have felt pulled away from people, routines, or old versions of yourself, that is not loss. That is preparation. You were allowed this close because you can hear God without needing noise. Some people need constant excitement, constant validation, constant movement. But God knows you can sit in stillness. You can endure quiet. You can listen beyond words. That makes you dangerous in the spirit and dependable in the kingdom. There is also something else you must understand. God does not draw people close simply to comfort them. He draws them close to entrust them. Closeness brings responsibility. Revelation carries weight. The more you see, the more accountable you become. That is why God waits until the heart is ready before revealing more. He has been testing your motives, your reactions, your humility, and you passed tests you did not even know were happening. You have been learning discernment. You no longer chase everything that sparkles. You feel when something is off. You sense when a door is not from God. This did not come overnight. It came through disappointment, through betrayal, through prayers that were not answered the way you expected. Those experiences sharpened your spiritual senses. That is why you are trusted with proximity. Let me ease your mind about something. If you are this close to God, it does not mean you have arrived. It means you have been invited. And invitations can be withdrawn if pride enters. That is why humility has been your companion. That is why God keeps you dependent on Him. You cannot do this without Him, and deep down, you know that. You may have wondered why your life does not look like others, why your path feels narrower, why certain doors closed while others seem to flourish. Listen to me carefully. God limits the chosen to protect them. He restricts access because distraction would dilute the assignment. What looks like limitation is actually divine focus. This closeness is also why your convictions feel stronger. Things you once tolerated now trouble your spirit. Conversations feel empty. Certain environments drain you. This is not you becoming judgmental. This is your spirit becoming sensitive. God fine-tunes those He draws near. You are learning to guard what enters your mind and heart because your inner life matters now more than ever. And let me address the fear some of you carry. You feel this closeness, but you worry about failing God. You worry about messing it up. Hear me now. God did not bring you this far to abandon you. He knew your weaknesses before He called you. His grace is not fragile. His patience is not thin. He is shaping you, not waiting for you to slip. What He desires from you at this level is not striving, but surrender. Not perfection, but obedience. Not constant effort, but consistent faithfulness. Rest in that. Let that calm your mind. Being this close to God also means He speaks to you differently. Sometimes it is not with words. Sometimes it is a nudge, a heaviness, a sudden clarity, or a quiet restraint. Learn to honor that. The closer you are, the subtler the guidance becomes. God trusts you to listen. You were allowed this close because you have shown that you will not misuse intimacy. Some people would turn closeness into control, superiority, or ego. But God sees your heart. He knows you would rather serve than be seen. You would rather obey than impress. That posture keeps you safe in His presence. Let me say this clearly, so it settles into your spirit. If you are feeling closer to God, yet more aware of your own smallness, you are exactly where you should be. True closeness does not inflate the ego. It humbles the soul. It quiets the need to prove anything. It anchors you in peace. This season is not about outward achievement. It is about inward alignment. God is teaching you how to walk with Him, not just work for Him. He is teaching you how to be led, not just motivated. That is rare. That is sacred. So do not question why you are allowed this close. Receive it with gratitude. Steward it with humility. Protect it with obedience. And trust that God knows exactly what He is doing with you. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not overlooked. You are near because you are ready to be trusted. Let me add this, chosen one, because your spirit needs to hear it clearly. Being this close to God also means He is healing parts of you that no one else ever touched. At a distance, God corrects behavior. Up close, He heals identity. And that is what is happening to you now. Old wounds are surfacing, not to shame you, but to finally be released. Memories resurface. Emotions rise unexpectedly. This is not regression. This is restoration. God only heals what He plans to use. He only restores what He plans to rely on. Some of the pain you could never explain to others is now being addressed quietly between you and Him. This is sacred work. Do not rush it. Do not resist it. Let God do what only He can do in the depths of your soul. You may notice that your prayers are changing. You ask for less and trust more. you explain less and surrender faster. That is maturity. That is nearness. You are learning that God already knows your heart, so performance is unnecessary. Authenticity is enough here, and hear this with peace in your spirit. If you are this close to God, He is also teaching you how to rest without guilt. Rest is not weakness at this level. Rest is wisdom. God does not exhaust His chosen. He teaches them rhythm. He teaches them when to move and when to be still. If He is slowing you down, it is because clarity is coming. This closeness is not meant to isolate you forever. It is meant to root you deeply so that when you do stand before others, you stand with authority, compassion, and truth. God is anchoring you now so that future storms do not shake you. So breathe. You are safe here. You are seen here. And you are deeply held by God, closer than you have ever been. Not because you demanded it, but because you were ready to receive it. The hidden cost of divine proximity. Chosen one, now I must tell you the truth that few are prepared to hear. Getting close to God comes with a cost. A quiet cost. A misunderstood cost. And if you're honest with yourself, you have already been paying it. Divine proximity is not glamorous. It is not loud. It does not always feel victorious. In fact, many who walk closely with God feel misunderstood, unseen, and at times deeply alone. This is not punishment. This is refinement. When God draws you closer, He removes the noise that once comforted you. He strips away false attachments. He gently, yet firmly, takes away what would distract you from hearing Him clearly. And yes, that can feel like loss. People drift. Conversations change. Familiar joys lose their shine. You wonder why things that once fulfilled you now feel empty. This is the hidden cost. Closeness to God often feels like isolation before it feels like peace. Not because God wants you lonely, but because He wants you undivided. Many cannot handle this stage. They mistake silence for abandonment. They mistake pruning for rejection. But you stayed, even when it hurt, even when it confused you. There is a reason Jesus walked alone so often. There is a reason prophets were misunderstood. There is a reason deep spiritual people are often labeled intense, distant, or different. When you walk close to God, you no longer fit comfortably in shallow spaces. And that discomfort is not arrogance. It is awareness. Let me speak to the emotional weight you've been carrying. You feel deeply. You notice things others ignore. You sense shifts before they happen. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is a byproduct of nearness. But sensitivity without understanding can feel overwhelming. That is why God is teaching you emotional discipline now. He is teaching you how to feel without drowning, how to care without collapsing. You may have noticed that certain relationships became strained, not because you changed your values aggressively, but because your presence alone exposed misalignment. Light does that. It reveals without speaking. And not everyone is ready to see themselves clearly. This is one of the hardest costs. Loving people who cannot walk with you anymore. Wanting to explain yourself, but knowing silence is wiser. Carrying compassion without rescuing. This is advanced spiritual maturity, even if it feels painful. Another hidden cost is spiritual responsibility. When you are close to God, ignorance is no longer an excuse. You feel conviction faster. You sense when something is off immediately. This can feel heavy at times. You cannot unsee what God has shown you. You cannot go back to who you were. And while that brings clarity, it also brings accountability. You may feel tired in ways sleep doesn't fix. That is not physical exhaustion alone. That is spiritual processing. Your soul has been shedding layers, letting go of old identities, releasing outdated survival patterns. This work happens quietly, internally, and it takes energy. Hear me carefully now. Feeling tired does not mean you are weak. It means you are transforming. Growth always requires energy. Even trees look still while growing deep roots. There are moments you may feel emotionally raw, Old wounds feel closer to the surface. Questions you thought were resolved resurface. This is not regression. This is healing at a deeper level. God does not rush healing. He heals thoroughly. And yes, there are moments when God feels silent. This is where many panic. But silence near God is different from distance. Silence here is trust. It is God knowing you no longer need constant reassurance. He is allowing your faith to breathe. Think of it this way. When a child is learning to walk, the parent stays close but stops holding every step. Not because they left, but because they trust the child's balance. God is doing the same with you. Another cost is that you see through illusions now. You notice when faith is performative. You sense when words lack substance. This can be lonely because you crave depth, not noise. But God is shaping you to be anchored, not impressed. Let me address the quiet grief you may not have named. Grief for the version of life you thought you would have by now. Grief for the ease others seem to experience. Grief for being strong for so long. God sees this grief. He is not offended by it. Even Jesus wept. Even Jesus asked why. Being close to God does not remove emotion, it sanctifies it. This season is not meant to harden you. It is meant to soften you with wisdom, to teach you discernment without bitterness, strength without ego, authority without control. If you feel like you've outgrown certain environments, that is because you have. If you feel like you no longer belong where you used to, that is because you are being repositioned, not upward in status but inward in depth. The hidden cost of divine proximity is that you must learn to live without constant external validation. God becomes your anchor. His approval becomes enough. This is freeing, but it takes time. Let me reassure you, this cost is not permanent suffering. It is temporary shaping. God never removes joy without replacing it with something deeper. He never takes comfort without offering peace. He never prunes without future fruit in mind. So if you are in the middle of this cost right now, do not resist it. Do not label it as failure. Do not rush out of it. Stay still. Stay honest. Stay surrendered. You are not being broken. You are being refined. And the closer you get to God, the more you will realize that even the cost was covered by grace. Let me take you a little deeper, chosen one, because this part matters more than you realize. One of the most overlooked costs of divine proximity is the loss of illusion. When you walk closely with God, He removes the filters through which you once saw life. You begin to see people as they are, systems as they are, and even yourself as you truly are. This clarity can feel heavy. Ignorance once felt lighter, but truth brings freedom, not comfort. You may notice that you can no longer escape through distractions the way others do. Entertainment does not numb you like it used to. Noise feels irritating instead of soothing. This is because God is training you to live consciously, not compulsively. He wants you awake, not anesthetized. And yes, being awake can feel exhausting at first. Another cost is learning restraint. You know more now, but you speak less. You discern more, but you react less. You understand situations before they unfold, yet you remain silent. This restraint can feel lonely because wisdom often stands quietly while chaos speaks loudly. But God values restraint. Power under control is maturity. You are also learning how to carry compassion without absorbing everyone's pain. That takes practice. When you are close to God, people are drawn to you energetically. They sense safety, depth, and understanding. But God is teaching you boundaries now, not walls, but wisdom. You cannot heal everyone. That is not your role. Your role is obedience, not exhaustion. There will be days you feel misunderstood even by those who love you. They may say you've changed, and they are right. But what they often mean is that you no longer fit the version of you that made them comfortable. Growth does that, and God will not shrink you to preserve familiarity. Here is a truth I want to settle gently into your heart. The cost you are paying now is saving you from a greater cost later. God refines his chosen early so they do not collapse under future weight. He is strengthening your inner world so that outer success does not destroy you. So when the journey feels heavy, remind yourself of this. God only walks this closely with those he plans to entrust with much. And he is walking with you, not watching from a distance. What God is preparing you for right now. Chosen one, let me speak to the question you have been carrying quietly in your heart. You have felt the pressure, the stretching, the waiting, and you keep wondering, what is all of this for? I will tell you this with clarity and calm. God does nothing without purpose. This season you are in is not random, and it is not wasted. Right now, God is preparing you internally before he ever moves externally. He is far more concerned with who you are becoming than what you are about to do. Because what you carry on the inside will determine how long you can sustain what he places in your hands later. You are being trained to hear God without needing constant confirmation. Earlier seasons required signs, reassurance, and external validation. This season requires trust. God is teaching you how to move with discernment, not impulse. That is preparation. He is also strengthening your character, not your image, not your reputation, but your inner foundation. Many people collapse when elevation comes because their inner life was never fortified. God refuses to let that be your story. He is reinforcing humility, patience, and obedience in you now, so that when responsibility increases, your soul does not fracture. Notice how God has slowed certain areas of your life. Progress feels delayed. Momentum feels interrupted. This is not denial. This is alignment. God often slows his chosen so they do not outrun their own wisdom. Speed without discernment is dangerous. Timing without preparation is destructive. Right now, God is teaching you how to carry peace in uncertainty, how to remain steady when outcomes are unclear, how to trust his voice even when the path ahead is not fully visible. This skill will protect you later when decisions carry weight and consequences affect others. You are also being trained to detach from outcomes. Earlier, you may have prayed desperately for specific results. Now, your prayers are quieter, deeper, more surrendered. You are learning to trust God's intention over your expectation. This is not loss of passion. This is growth of faith. God is also healing your relationship with control. You are realizing that control was often a response to fear, not wisdom. God is teaching you to release what you cannot manage and to steward what you can. This balance is critical for what is coming. Another part of this preparation is learning to stand alone without becoming bitter. God is strengthening your sense of identity so that your confidence does not depend on applause or agreement. When you know who you are in God, opposition does not destabilize you. You may not see it clearly yet, but God is also refining your voice, not necessarily for public platforms, but for influence. Influence does not always look like visibility. Sometimes it looks like discernment, counsel, and quiet leadership. God is teaching you when to speak and when silence carries more authority. This season is also teaching you endurance. Not the kind that grits teeth and survives, but the kind that remains soft while waiting. God does not want you hardened by pressure. He wants you anchored by trust. You are learning to walk by faith, not by emotional highs. Your spirituality is becoming rooted, not reactive. That is preparation. Let me address the frustration you feel. You know you are capable of more. You sense potential. You feel urgency. But God is teaching you that readiness is not urgency. Readiness is stability. Readiness is obedience. Readiness is patience. God is also preparing you to handle clarity. That may sound strange, but clarity changes everything. Once God reveals what he intends to do, you cannot unknow it. Your decisions become heavier. Your obedience becomes more intentional. God ensures your heart is steady before he reveals more. Right now, God is shaping you to be someone who can carry revelation without ego, authority without arrogance, and blessing without losing reverence. That takes time. You may feel like you are being held in place, like life is paused. It is not paused, it is being positioned. God is aligning circumstances, timing, and people in ways you cannot see yet. This preparation is also teaching you compassion. You are learning empathy through your own waiting. Later, you will be able to sit with others in their uncertainty without dismissing them. That is ministry, even if it never stands behind a pulpit. God is also training your discernment to recognize counterfeits. Not everything good is God. Not every opportunity is assignment. Not every open door is permission. You are learning restraint now, so you do not regret haste later. Let me say this clearly so it settles your mind. You are not being delayed because you are unworthy. You are being prepared because what is ahead is weighty. God does not rush what he values. If God is quiet right now, it is because he is confident in what he has already placed within you. Silence here is not absence, it is trust. So remain faithful in the small things. Remain obedient in the unseen. Remain calm in the waiting. God is preparing you for something that requires depth, stability, and spiritual maturity. And when the time comes, you will realize that this season was not empty. It was essential. Let me add this, chosen one, because there is another layer of preparation happening that you may not yet recognize. God is also reshaping how you see success. In earlier seasons, success may have meant achievement, recognition, or visible progress. Now, success looks like obedience, peace, and alignment. God is teaching you that a calm spirit is greater than a crowded schedule, and integrity is more powerful than applause. You are being prepared to carry weight without becoming heavy, to lead without controlling, to serve without losing yourself. This balance cannot be taught quickly, it must be lived into. That is why God allows time to stretch. Time reveals what pressure hides. God is also deepening your dependence on him, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. You are learning that self-reliance has limits, but God-reliance has no ceiling. This shift is subtle, but powerful. It changes how you respond to stress, uncertainty, and responsibility. Notice how your tolerance for superficial things has decreased. This is not arrogance. It is refinement. God is tuning your appetite toward what nourishes rather than what distracts. You crave depth now, not intensity. Truth, not noise. Presence, not performance. Another part of this preparation is learning to trust God with unanswered questions. You no longer need every detail explained. You are learning to move forward with partial understanding, knowing God sees the full picture. That level of trust is rare, and God does not waste it. You may also sense God teaching you how to wait without complaining. Waiting used to frustrate you. Now it quiets you. That is growth. Waiting becomes worship when it is surrendered. Let this bring you peace. God is not withholding from you. He is building you. He is not delaying your life. He is deepening it. And when you step into what he is preparing you for, you will not rush, panic, or prove. You will move with clarity, authority, and peace, because you were prepared in the quiet long before the moment arrived. Why the enemy is nervous about you. Chosen one, now we must speak honestly, without fear and without exaggeration. The resistance you have been sensing is not imagined. It is not coincidence. And it is not because you are weak. It is because of who you are becoming. The enemy is not intimidated by noise. He is not threatened by people who speak loudly about faith, but live shallowly. What unsettles him is quiet authority. What disrupts him is depth. What makes him nervous is someone who walks closely with God without needing attention or approval. That is you. You see, opposition is not a sign that you are off course. It is often confirmation that you are aligned. The closer you walk with God, the more intentional the resistance becomes. Not dramatic, not obvious, subtle, persistent, designed to wear you down rather than scare you away. The enemy's primary strategy at this level is not destruction, it is distraction. He does not need to remove you from the path if he can exhaust you on it. That is why you have faced mental fog, spiritual fatigue, and moments of self-doubt that seem to come from nowhere. These are not failures, these are tactics. Notice how the attacks often target your mind, your confidence, your sense of identity. Thoughts whisper that you are behind, that you missed something, that you should be further along by now. That voice is not God. God convicts, but he does not confuse. He corrects, but he does not accuse. The enemy knows something important about you. He knows that if you remain steady, you will be effective. He knows that if you stay grounded, you will carry influence without corruption. And he knows that your closeness to God makes you difficult to manipulate. So he tries to destabilize you emotionally. Another reason the enemy is nervous is because you are learning discernment. Discernment is dangerous to deception. You no longer accept everything at face value. You feel when something is off, even if it looks good on the surface. That threatens systems built on illusion. You may have noticed that temptations now come disguised as reasonable options. Good things, convenient choices, opportunities that seem harmless but pull you out of alignment. The enemy does not always tempt you with obvious sin. He tempts you with misalignment, with compromise, with urgency that bypasses prayer. The enemy also tries to isolate you emotionally, not physically alone, but internally disconnected, making you feel like no one truly understands you, like your journey is strange or excessive. This isolation is meant to weaken resolve. But here is the truth. You are not alone. You are simply uncommon. Another tactic is discouragement through delay, whispering that nothing is happening, that your prayers are ineffective, that your obedience is unnoticed. This is one of the oldest strategies. The enemy hopes you will quit quietly, not rebelliously, that you will settle rather than surrender. But listen to me carefully. The enemy does not waste energy on those who pose no threat. Resistance is selective. Pressure reveals value. You are experiencing pushback because your life carries weight in the spirit. There is also resistance through relationships, sudden misunderstandings, unnecessary conflict, emotional distance. Not every conflict is spiritual, but spiritual growth often triggers relational tension. The enemy uses unresolved emotions to create division. This is why God has been teaching you restraint, silence, discernment. Not every battle is meant to be addressed. Let me bring you peace here. You do not need to fight the enemy aggressively at this level. You need to remain aligned. Alignment is defense. Peace is protection. Obedience is authority. The enemy becomes nervous when you do not react emotionally, when you do not chase validation, when you do not panic in uncertainty. Calm faith frustrates him because it cannot be manipulated. Another reason the enemy is unsettled is because you are learning to forgive. Forgiveness breaks cycles. It shuts doors the enemy relies on. When you forgive without excusing harm, you free yourself from spiritual entanglement. That is power. You may also notice resistance when you try to rest. Rest threatens the enemy because a rested soul hears God clearly. Exhaustion creates vulnerability. That is why guilt tries to creep in when you slow down. God invites rest. The enemy resists it. Hear this clearly so it settles your spirit. You do not need to be afraid of resistance. You need to be aware without being anxious. Awareness gives you authority. Fear gives the enemy access. The enemy cannot stop what God has ordained, but he can delay, distract, and discourage if allowed. That is why your discipline matters now. Your boundaries matter. Your inner life matters. This is not the season to over-explain yourself. It is not the season to prove your calling. It is the season to remain faithful, grounded, and obedient. Quiet consistency outlasts loud opposition. Let me remind you of something important. Jesus did not argue with the enemy. He responded with truth and walked away. He did not panic. He did not negotiate. He stood firm in identity. That is your posture now. You know who you are. You know who God is. You do not need to engage every thought. You do not need to entertain every doubt. Some thoughts are not yours. Let them pass. If you feel pressure increasing, it is because clarity is approaching. Resistance often intensifies before breakthrough, not because the enemy is powerful, but because time is short. Stay calm. Stay rooted. Stay surrendered. The enemy is nervous, not because you are loud, but because you are becoming unshakable. Let me add this, chosen one, because this will help you move forward without fear. One of the clearest signs that the enemy is uneasy is when peace becomes your weapon. When chaos surrounds you but does not enter you, something powerful is happening. The enemy relies on reaction. When you respond with calm obedience instead of emotional impulse, his strategies lose strength. You may notice that certain attacks feel repetitive. The same doubts, the same insecurities, the same temptations resurfacing in new forms. This repetition is not creativity, it is desperation. The enemy repeats what once worked, hoping it still has access. But you are not who you were. What once shook you now only reminds you how far you have come. Another reason the enemy is nervous is because you are learning to wait. Waiting disrupts his timeline. He thrives on haste and pressure. God moves in patience and precision. Every time you refuse to rush a decision, every time you pause to pray instead of reacting, you shift the advantage back to God. You are also learning how to guard your thoughts. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every emotion deserves action. This mental discipline is spiritual authority. The enemy loses influence where discernment increases. And hear this clearly. You are not fighting alone. You never were. God's presence is not fragile. It does not retreat because of resistance. It remains steady. The enemy knows this. That is why he tries to make you feel isolated, when in reality you are deeply covered. So do not fear the pressure. Do not overanalyze the resistance. Simply remain aligned. Stay in truth. Stay in prayer. Stay in peace. The enemy is not nervous because you are aggressive. He is nervous because you are calm, grounded, and walking forward with God, and there is nothing he can do to stop that. The mental shift required at this level. Chosen one, this is where many stumble, not because they lack faith, but because they resist the mental shift God is asking of them. Closeness to God demands a new way of thinking. Old mental patterns cannot sustain new spiritual depth. And God, in his wisdom, is now reshaping your mind so your soul can remain at peace. At this level, reaction becomes your greatest enemy. God is teaching you that not everything requires a response. Silence is no longer weakness, it is discernment. When you are emotionally triggered, the enemy gains leverage. When you remain calm, you retain authority. You are learning to slow your thoughts, to question impulses, to pause before responding. This is not passivity, this is mastery. A disciplined mind is a guarded life. God is teaching you how to govern your inner world before he entrusts you with influence in the outer world. Notice how you no longer feel the need to explain yourself constantly. That urge to defend, justify, or convince has been weakening. This is a sign of maturity.